This week, the HPT makes its first visit to the land of enchantment. We're in Albuquerque, New Mexico at the Route 66 Casino Hotel. A $250,000 prize pool drew past HPT champions, local rounders, and players from all over the Southwest, all vying to be the newest HPT champion and take home almost $72,000. The final table is set, and one man stands out in the mix. He's the 2004 WSOP main event champion Greg Raymer and is going for his biggest win since taking down the biggest tournament in the world. But 5 other talented players are hoping they can say they beat the champ and took down the biggest poker tournament in New Mexico state history. This is the HPT.
They come from all walks of life, each with a story to tell. All they need is a chip and a chair. It's an open casting call for those who love the game. This ain't your weekend home game. This is the HPT.
Sit right down, put on your poker face, you with the big dogs now. Better bring your best game, talk trash all you want. To me it's all the same, you won't leave with much when you come in second place. I'm the one with the stack showing 7 to the jack. Gon' cry to your mama cause I'm sending you back. I'll be the last man standing with the money in my hand. I'll be the last man standing with the money in my hand. Last man standing with the money in my hand. I'll be the last man standing with the money in my hand.
Hello and welcome to the HPT, this week at our inaugural event at Route 66 Casino in Albuquerque, New Mexico. I'm Chris Hansen, and the man to my left is Fred Bevel. Now, he spent most of his week here in Albuquerque out in the desert looking for Mater and Radiator Springs.
My kids really want an autograph.
Fred, it's not real, it's just a movie.
Whatever, I'll find it. $250,000 was on the line when we stepped into New Mexico this week, and all but 6 have either made their way to the cage or simply out the door. And as the final 6 sit down on the HPT's nationally televised stage, one man stands out as the guy to beat.
And that one man is Greg Raymer. Yes, the Greg Raymer. The Fossil Man is looking to capture his biggest win since taking down the 04 main event, and he's starting the TV final table as our chip leader. But the other 5 at this table, Fred, they're no slouches. They've played with Greg for hours and know what he is capable of. And all of them want to be able to say that I was the guy who beat the champ.
Almost 72 grand will go to the last man standing, and as the blinds climb and players are eliminated, the pressure will go up. When that happens, you have to give Greg the edge. Few players have dealt with the pressure he has, but it's a no-limit tournament and anything can happen, and the momentum can shift faster than a speeding bullet. Greg will have to balance his aggression and trust his reads, while the other players are going to have to keep shifting gears to keep the champ guessing.
All right, let's meet half of this final table and then get started with the biggest final table in New Mexico state history tonight on the HPT.
My name is Alan Haden. They call me Big Al. I'm from Evergreen, Colorado, and I'm a professional gambler.
My name is Scott Doherty. I'm from Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and I work in a family business. We're into real estate brokering and real estate rentals.
I'm Greg Raymer, also known as Fossil Man. I live in Raleigh, North Carolina, and I'm a professional poker player.
So I originally started out playing blackjack as a living and progressed into poker when it became popular.
I missed my flight and went to the wrong hotel, got here a day late, rebooked my hotel, and got here at the casino about 1:30 on Saturday. Yeah, I was happy when I got to the front doors and I knew I was at the right place. I instantly fell to the ground and kissed the floor and said, thank you, God, I made it. Finally, it was destined to happen.
Well, I really love all poker tournaments, and so the HPT is another great venue for me to come out, play a tournament, try to win a lot of money. Plus, I just like the attitude and demeanor. You go to some tournaments and it's so businesslike, the players aren't really having fun. And at the HPT, it's like even, you knock someone out, even if you bad beat the guy, he's usually like smiling and shaking your hand and telling you what a great time he had. And so it just makes it more enjoyable to spend your day playing poker when it's not a bunch of guys acting like bitter old men,
Speak for yourself, Greg. I have to sit next to a bitter old man for this entire final table.
Easy, buddy. Hey, top prize tonight is a little under $72,000. Everybody at this final table going home with just under 15 grand.
And here's our starting chip counts for this final table. Greg and Alan are our two big stacks, and the short stack is Rob Crawford, sitting in seat number 5.
Rob, only with 12 big blinds, is going to be looking to make a play quickly. Chip leader is the man, Greg Raymer, and that's who the action is going to start on here.
6-7 of spades for the champ, 2004 World Series of Poker main event champion, Greg Raymer.
Greg is going to raise it up with the suited connectors.
And on go the famous Fossil Man glasses.
Steve Carruthers folds over to the short stack, Robert Crawford.
Maybe some of the most famous sunglasses in history, Fred.
Wore them throughout the entire 2004 World Series. That's where he made them famous. And today, Greg gives them out. If you knock him out of the tournament, he gives you a fossil and a pair of the glasses.
And Alan will call out of the small blind with a suited ace. And now over to Scott Doherty.
I fold.
He will fold his big blind. And so we'll be heads up with Greg and Alan.
And Greg is staring down the one seed, Alan Haden.
The thing about those glasses is I can never get... I thought most of the time his eyes were closed behind those sunglasses the entire time of the World Series. And here comes our first flop ever at Route 66 Casino in Albuquerque, New Mexico. It's 8-3-9 Rainbow.
Action will start with the 1 seed.
Greg Raymer's flopped the open-ended straight draw. Alan Haden with just ace high, out of position. He's going to check over to Greg. Greg was the pre-flop raiser. Let's see if he continuation bets here. And he is going to semi-bluff the draw. Makes it $70,000 to go.
Hoping that the small blind caught something on that flop to keep him interested. These are the two chip leaders at the final table.
70,000 is the bet by C3, Greg. 70,000.
Alan is going to fold, and Mr. Raymer will win the first hand at this final table.
All right, our next hand starts with Rob Crawford under the gun.
About 50 minutes to go in the level.
The short stack looks down at 5 deuce. He will fold.
And Benji folds.
Back to Al. Al folds. And now to Scott on the button, 4-8 of hearts.
And C2, Scott folds.
And now to Greg Raymer, our small blind. Greg looks down at King Queen offsuit.
Love that hand.
He's going to raise it to 50,000.
Steve Carruthers looks down at connecting cards. Steve is a commercial loan officer from Las Cruces, New Mexico, just down the road here from Albuquerque.
Steve will call the raise. And the flop is King 7 Jack with a couple of clubs.
Greg has flopped top pair. Steve's got quite a draw. He's picked up a double belly buster.
Greg bets 70,000.
And Steve with 2 straight draws out there is not going anywhere for 70,000.
70,000 is the bet by the 3 seed. 70,000 and a call has been made. 70,000
and here comes the turn. It is a 7 pairing the board.
No help for Steve on his straight draws here. Greg's still the best with top pair. Greg's going to slow down and check.
I think Greg's going into pot control mode here. Probably going to call whatever the bet is from Steve.
130.
Steve fires a big 130,000 to go.
By the 4 seed of Steve.
And first time at this final table, Greg Raymer, 2004 main event champion, is being tested. And he is going to make the call.
We do have a blind versus blind hand here. This was small blind versus big blind. I guarantee you the only thing really Greg's probably worried about is that maybe he has 2 clubs or that he's got a 7. Both could be a possibility out of the big blind. And the river.
Regards 4 of diamonds.
It is a 4 of diamonds. Greg's got to be thinking he's safe on the river. He checks.
Over to the 4 seed now.
Let's see if Steve Carruthers can fire another bullet here. A stone-cold bluff after he's missed his draws on both streets. And Steve is staging some chips. 524,000 in the pot. He fires 160. That's an easy call for Greg to make with top pair. He makes it, and Greg is going to show the winning hand, and Steve is going to say, oh, maybe I should have bet a little more, or maybe I should have just checked.
Welcome back to the HPT with Fred Bevel. I'm Chris Hansen. Let's meet the rest of the players at our final table tonight.
My name is Robert Crawford. I'm from El Paso, Texas. I'm a professional poker player. I've been playing poker professionally about 4 years. I'm used to just playing like low-limit cash games. Like, it's probably the second biggest tournament buy-in I've been in.
Benji Benitas from Albuquerque, New Mexico. I'm a rancher. My hobby is team roping. I like to go team roping. I go to a few events. I also put them on. I produce them too, but it's just more of a hobby.
My name's Stephen Carruthers. I was born in Las Cruces, New Mexico. I currently reside in Albuquerque. I'm a commercial loan officer and got a job in one of the first tribal casinos that opened up dealing blackjack. It wasn't long before I gravitated to the poker room, and before I knew it, I was working in the poker room, playing pot limit poker on the side, and just having a real good time.
That sounds fun. Is there a list for that game that started somewhere? Well, Fred, obviously Greg Raymer is going to be the favorite at this final table with his experience, but who else do you like tonight?
Well, Alan Haden is a professional gambler. He's sitting with 41 big blinds, closest to Greg Raymer's stack, but it's anybody's game right now. I wouldn't even count out the short stacks. As you know as well as I do, no limit Texas Hold'em can turn on a dime.
And here we go, under the gun, ace-queen for Alan.
Doyle Brunson's least favorite hand, the big chick.
What does Doyle Brunson know?
Easy. It's the godfather of poker.
I'm kidding. Alan raises it up over to Greg. Ace-three of spades.
A suited ace isn't going to get rid of the champ. He's going to make the call.
Over to Steve. He will fold. And now to Robert. From El Paso, Texas. Robert will fold.
Rob, primarily a cash game player, doesn't play a lot of tournaments.
Benji folds, and so will be heads up once again with Greg and Alan. And here's the flop. It is 10 ace king. Both players pairing their ace.
Alan's got him crushed with the queen kicker. Alan has a gut shot straight draw as well. And Alan is going to fire 110,000.
110,000 is
over to Greg.
Bet by the one seat. 110,000.
And Greg is going to make the call.
Kind of surprised at that.
And a call, 5 seat 3.
Greg has position in this hand. He might be looking to see if Alan checks the turn.
It's a 7 of diamonds. That puts 3 diamonds on the board. Alan's first.
It does not look like Alan's going to be slowing down on the turn. He's going to fire 200,000. Let's see if the champ picks up this.
1,000.
And Greg is going to fold.
That's out.
So Greg's still a pretty good batting average at this final table. He's 2 for 3 in the hands he's played.
But Alan gets some of the chips back that he had lost early on in this final table, playing for just under $72,000. Action is folded back around to Alan. And he's got king, jack of hearts. 60,000 is the raise from Alan.
Seat 1 Alan's going to raise it to 60,000.
Alan currently finishing up a master's degree in military history with a World War II emphasis.
Holy cow.
I'm all in.
Scott is going all in with his pocket fives.
All in. Re-raise all in.
Good luck to Scott. Scott is having the time of his life making this final table and playing with the champ Greg Raymer.
Well, it kind of goes back to what Greg said in his player interview, that so many of the people are so happy just to play with him, even when he's just knocked them out of the tournament.
This time Greg's going to get out of the way.
And now back to Alan. It's 190,000 to try to eliminate this short stack. He's in a much better position here with his king jack of hearts.
Alan's asking for a count.
And he's a little bit more invested after raising here than he was last time against Rob.
250 total all in, 190.
Scott, who is all in, is from Sioux Falls, South Dakota, co-owner of a real estate brokerage firm, has played in other HPT events, and made his way here to the desert of New Mexico.
Just under 360,000 in the pot, 190 to call, and take a shot at knocking a player off the final table.
Well, it's just barely enough odds.
Sounds like Alan's trying to talk himself into this. Instinct is saying no, but the math is saying yes. And Scott is going to see that he's got to fade some paint in order to stay alive.
55 going up against King of Hearts.
Today, by the way, is his son's 19th birthday. So, Scott, we wish happy birthday to your son and wish you the best of luck to stay alive at this final table.
Well, Alan, I think, is getting what he hoped he would get, live cards. He's also got the hearts.
And here we go. The flop for Scott's tournament life is Queen 10-5 with 2 hearts. How's that for a draw?
That is quite a draw. Alan's got the open-ended straight draw and the flush draw.
Everyone laughing at this final table except for Scott.
Scott has flopped a set of 5s, but obviously vulnerable here. He's going to be hoping for this board to pair to lock the door.
You guys are both saying you better hope the writer's your buddy.
Whoever scripted. That was some deal. Stack those cards well.
All right, here comes the turn. It is a 6 of spades. Scott trying not to see an ace, a 9, or a heart come out on this board.
Straight draw, please.
And the river is a 4 of diamonds, so Scott will double up and stay alive.
Scott Daughtry will double up.
More final table action when we return to the HPT. Welcome back to the HPT at Route 66 Casino, our first ever trip into New Mexico. Fred, it's always fun to get the lay of the land while we're out here, and pretty much you see the casino from about 10 miles driving to it. The lights of it show up right on the interstate. You can't miss it the next time you're in Albuquerque.
Here is the updated chip count. It is still all the champ, Greg Raymer, with over 1.3 million in chips. The short stack right now is Steve with only 10 big blinds left in his stack, but he's going in the right direction, up 16,000 since we last checked.
All right, let's get back to the final table.
Much less draining.
And Benji's under the gun in first act.
And then everyone shoves all in before it's your turn to
He's got ace 10 of diamonds.
Figure out how to play this for max value. They did it for me.
Benji, one of the middle stacks at this final table. Ace 10, one of those weird little hands. It looks pretty, but easily dominated. Tough to play it against a raise.
60,000. Benji's going to raise it up to 60,000. Now over to Alan Haden. Alan will fold to Scott, freshly doubled up. King Jack offsuit.
Over to C2 now, Scott.
Known as the rookie hand. Let's see how Scott plays it.
Action is on the 2C. Scott.
Just out of position, I gotta fold.
And Scott does make the correct decision and will fold over to Greg.
The champ's going to look at his cards. He peels back deuce, 3 suited. It's not Raz, so he will fold. Over to Steve Carruthers.
I like
Steve's got 4 deuce of spades.
Up is getting bad against you. What are you gonna do
C4
this time?
Steve folds.
And now to the big blind with Queen 8. And Rob is all in.
3 raised by Robert all in.
Rob is putting the pressure on Benji's ace 10 now.
Hear any details? Like if it was, like a coin flip, and then.
And this is what stinks when you play ace 10 of diamonds. You're going to have to make another decision probably at some point. And right now it's for 271,000 in chips.
And Benji doesn't have a whole lot of chips to play with. Rob knows that.
Yeah, well,
When the money went. Yeah, but you don't know that.
I know.
And the fact that Benji hasn't called yet has got to make Rob feel good. And Benji is going to lay it down. And look at that. You put the pressure on, you're going to scoop a good-sized pot. And the blinds continue on at 12 and 24,000 with a 4,000 chip ante.
Alan Haden is going to be first to act. The 43-year-old from Evergreen, Colorado, looks down at Pocket Kings.
A lot of Colorado players down here in Albuquerque. Just a short drive. A few hours down the road.
Past champions James Muchler, Craig Casino were here this week.
just to name a few. Allen is going to raise it to 50,000 with his wired kings. Greg Raymer looks down at 8-5 suited. And he's going to make the call. Greg looking to do a little post flop in position here.
Steve folds, and now over to Rob. Rob in the 5 seat will fold. And now to Benji in the 6 seat, 5-6 offsuit.
Benji in the big blind for 24. Does not want to see a flop for just a little bit more.
So we're heads up with Allen and Greg. The flop is 7 ace 4 with a couple of clubs.
And Greg has flopped a gut shot straight flush draw. There's also an ace on the board. That's going to make Allen a little bit nervous. But he does have to fire a continuation bet. It's going to be 110,000.
Back to the Fossil Man.
Question for Mr. Raymer here is, do I call or do I raise? He is just going to flat it.
And C3 Greg makes the call. Let's go ahead and see the turn card, please.
These two players with a lot of action here together at this final table. The turn is another 7.
Pairing the board on the turn. No help for Greg. And Allen is firing that second bullet, this time for 200,000. And look at Greg staring him down. You know, he's the nicest guy you will ever meet, and your heads up with him in a poker hand. He is intimidating as it gets. And here comes the thunder. Greg is going to raise it to 450,000. Making it $250,000 in chips for Allen to see a river.
Now that's how a world champion raises. Allen quickly throws his kings into the muck, and Greg Raymer punishing Allen on that hand.
I know where it is.
And that is why he won the World Series main event right there. Great play. Action starts this hand with Scott. He's going to fold suited connectors. Back over to the champ.
10-3 of diamonds is folded for Greg. And now to Steve.
Mullen.
And Steve is putting all of his chips in the middle with ace-5 offsuit.
Good as time as any.
227.
In the cutoff position. Uh-oh, but he is running into ace-10 suited from Rob. Let's see if Rob is going to play this or give him credit for a better hand.
These are the two short stacks at the final table.
And we're on the 5 seat of Robert.
The secret isn't running good. The secret's not running bad.
I call.
And Rob makes the call. Now over to Benji.
When I do well in
In
tournaments,
the small blind with Jack-5 offsuit.
never run bad. I don't.
And now we're over to Allen in the 6th seat with King-Queen of spades.
Kings against your aces. That's
Allen may be considering going for a 2-for-1 elimination here.
Well, you've got an all-in and a call in front of you. King-Queen suited looks real pretty, but you got to think it's crushed in this situation.
But Fred, these are the two short stacks at this final table. This could be a primo opportunity for him to quickly move up the pay scale.
Allen, a professional gambler, picked up the trade because, well, he travels with his Grammy Award-winning opera-singing wife all over the world. He needed something to do. He said, I'll gamble.
For 3 events.
What a good woman he married.
Allen is going to fold. And so it'll be between Rob and Steve for Steve's tournament life. And he is going to be behind.
Steve is heavily dominated in this hand. Both share the ace. Rob's got him crushed with a 10 kicker. He's just got to fade a 5 or the straight outs.
Here's the flop. It is deuce 7-4, and it's all diamonds. Well, that's some help.
Considering Steve's situation pre-flop, he's got to love this. He's picked up a flush draw and a straight draw. He's looking to find a diamond, a 3, or a 5.
You're still a favorite, just not.
And when you look at the percentages, Fred, he's coin flipping the last 2 cards. Here we go. The turn is a 9.
He had 12 outs twice. You're a small favorite. He should have paired the board on the turn, though.
Just not the 10 of diamonds.
That would have been the most.
Black card.
Let's go ahead and see the river card, please.
Black card.
And the river, it is another 9, and that will do it. Steve Carruthers is our first victim at this final table.
I'm disappointed. I felt like I could have played better. I made a big mistake early, and it really put me in a bad position and cost me. I'm going home with almost $15,000, and you know the Powerball's up over 150 million. So that's got to be what 7,500 tickets. You know, I can maximize those odds. I can take advantage of that.
More final table action from Route 66 Casino Hotel when we come back. Thanks for coming back to the HPT. It's time to brush up on your skills at the poker table with 12-time World Series of Poker bracelet winner Phil Hellmuth. Tonight, Phil's going to tell you how to close the leaks in your game.
I talked about plugging your leaks at the table. It's even more important to plug your leaks away from the table. How do you do that? Money management is key. You can be a player with this much talent and live a very comfortable life as a professional poker player. Why? Because you manage your money. You can have this much talent and your life looks like this. Ups and downs and swings and highs and lows. Yeah, I won a World Series of Poker. Then I went broke. Then I did this and I did that. Away from the table, plugging your leaks is almost always about money management. That means not risking too much money in one day. Not risking too much money in one game. You know, knowing when you should be playing. You know, time management. You know, one of my big mistakes in the past, I would win $20,000 a day in a game, and I'd be sitting around my hotel in Vegas, I'd be bored. I said, I'll go down and get a little dessert. Well, now I'm tired, now I start losing, now I start playing bad, and all of a sudden I've lost $30,000. A day I should have won 20, I lost 10. I plugged that leak eventually.
You want to talk about leaks in your game? Sometimes I actually have to take off my socks and shoes to try to plug all the holes in my game.
I have a few myself. One who doesn't have many leaks in his game is Greg Raymer, our chip leader, sitting with 44% of the chips in play right now. The short stack is the gentleman in the 6th seat, Mr. Benji Benitas. Blinds continuing at 12-24 with a 4,000 chip ante.
Greg's first act. Greg makes his home these days in North Carolina. Does almost as much teaching as he does playing these days.
He is making everybody a better player. I really wish he'd stop doing that.
Unless he's going to teach us, too. Rob raises to 65,000. Benji folds over to Allen.
Allen with ace-queen. And it looks like Allen is just going to call the raise from Rob here.
And now to Scott in the big blind.
The 1 seat of Al makes the call.
2,000 more. Oh, is it 65? 65.
Raise was 65. So Al now completes.
And Scott Doherty peels back Jack 6 offsuit.
Yeah, we waited all that time to look at Jack 6. Man. All right, so our heads up between Rob and Allen. And here comes the flop. It's 4, 3, ace, all diamonds.
Good flop for Rob. He has flopped 2 pair. Allen has flopped his ace.
And it's an uncomfortable top pair if you're Allen.
Everybody's uncomfortable at this final table right now. 3 suits on the board has got to make them both a little hesitant, but Allen is going to fire, and it looks like a big bet coming.
95.
95,000. And look at this. Rob is going to go all in.
95,000 and now
he re-raises to just under 500,000 chips.
And Rob has Allen covered, and Allen is going to make the call.
Ace 3 flipped over for your 5 seat of Robert for 2 pair. Ace queen.
Allen, without a diamond in his hand, is going to be looking for a queen for the win or running cards for a chop.
Okay, once again, the 5 seats.
Rob in a good position to eliminate Allen and add a huge amount of chips to his anemic stack.
And the turn is another diamond, so now for the win, Allen's going to be looking for a queen, or for the board to pair with another 4 or 7 for a better kicker with 2 pair, or another diamond for a chop.
River card, please.
A lot of outs.
And the river is a 10, and none of them come home for Allen. He started this final table, Fred, second in chips, only behind Greg Raymer. And Fred, now he will be the second person leaving our final table.
We know that Allen is eliminated. The players and the floor just have to work it out. They were close in chips when they started. Allen going home with a nice paycheck for his efforts. Let's see what he has to say about this final table.
Quick couple of hands, definitely in that last hand cooler, you know, that an ace 3 would come out on the flop is, you know, devastating. So over 16 grand, that's good. I wish it was better. I'm sure I'll be reinvesting it in poker again.
Blinds continuing on at 12 and 24,000 with a 4,000 chip ante. Action will start with Greg Raymer.
Fred, it's pretty amazing that not that long ago, Rob was our short stack and was trying to stay alive. And now, Fred, he's got plenty of chips to play with.
Over to Robert on the button in the 5 seat.
And that looks like what he's doing with Queen 9 of Diamonds. He's playing with those newly acquired chips.
He's got chirping chips, and he's not afraid to use them. Action now over to Scott.
Over to seat 2, Scott.
Scott with 4-5 offsuit. Scott might be the most excited to make this final table. It's a lot of fun to see a player get this experience, playing for big money, playing on TV, and in this situation, playing against a world champion.
Raise was the 50,000. Action on the 2 seat of Scott.
Scott deciding whether or not to make this a 3-handed pot going to the flop.
I fold.
And seat 2, Scott folds.
Erring on the side of caution, never a bad idea in no limit
We have 2
poker.
players.
And here it comes. The flop is 5, King, 10, 2 spades on that flop.
Seat of Greg.
And Greg has flopped 2 pair here. Rob has picked up a gut shot straight draw. He'll be hoping for a jack. Greg's going to bet 70,000.
The bet by is 3 seat of Greg.
Over to Rob.
70,000. Over to the 5 seat now. That's Robert.
Let's see if Robert wants to call 70,000 into a 222,000 chip pot on a gut shot. He does not.
And Greg Raymer continues to rock and roll at this final table. Everything going the champ's way tonight on the HPT. Welcome back to the HPT at Route 66 Casino in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And Fred, for a lot of people, getting to play with the world champ is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity.
Greg's he's a nice guy, but he plays real aggressive. When the blinds got bigger, he's playing real aggressive, playing almost every pot, like making little min raises almost every hand.
Playing with him has been just wonderful. He's an incredibly nice guy to play with.
I'd like to knock Greg Raymer out. That'd be my goal, to knock him out, and even if I win it or not.
He's sitting just to the left of me. I had the pleasure of playing right beside him in the same spot for about 3-4 hours. So I got to know him really quite well, and got a lot of stuff to say that I soaked it all in. It's going to be a great ride.
I am super excited to have Greg Raymer at this final table. Not only is he a very good, excellent poker player, he's a tremendous ambassador for our sport and a fine gentleman.
Greg Raymer, a great guy, and we love having him at HPT events. He's about as genuine a person as you're ever going to meet until you sit down at the poker table. Then it is no holds barred. He's going to come after you.
He is all business at the poker table as we continue on at 12:24.
Robert Crawford first at from El Paso, Texas. Rob started this final table with 371,000 in chips. Freddie's now got over $1 million. He is doing everything right at this final table.
No limit poker. It can turn on a dime. We said it earlier, and Rob is living proof of that. Benji Benitas wakes up with King Queen suited. That's my favorite hand. Let's see how he plays it.
Lands on everybody.
That's the same one that
Benji's the short stack.
Just there's always one, exactly one.
He was vicious, I'll tell you that.
And he is going to raise it up to 60,000. Now over to Scott.
Scott peels back ace-8 offsuits. Scott, not a whole lot of chips to play with anymore either. He's going to need to be cautious.
I raise.
Never mind. He's going to raise it up.
Been announced by Scott in the 2 seat.
Well, he's kind of in a bad spot here, announcing a raise. The initial raise was 60,000, so if he makes it in the neighborhood of 150 to 200,000, well, that's what you call pot committed, pretty much at that spot.
Re-raise now to 100,000.
And Scott is going to do a min re-raise here of 120,000.
Greg Raymer in the 3 seat.
120 is that much.
One stack.
Greg helps Scott out and then takes a look at his cards.
Actions on Greg in seat number 3.
See if Greg thinks this is a good opportunity for a squeeze play or not. He does not. He decides to fold.
60,000 more for Benji to call, and as I was expecting, he does move all in.
Good luck.
Re-raise all in by Benji in
How much more to me?
6. We're going to get.
And I don't know if this is what Scott had wanted or not. I'm not exactly sure with that raise if he thought he was going to get Benji to fold.
And Anthony Chester over. 100 and 3 natters with speed.
It's almost like this is what he wanted to happen, Fred. He wanted to get re-raised so he could put all the chips in the middle.
Well, the pressure right now is on Scott Doherty. He's got himself in a bit of a pickle here. I don't think he wants to call another $219,000 with a weak ace like ace-8.
As I said, he got into such a position that if he was going to make a raise, he was going to be committed. So then standard operating procedure is just put them all in the middle at that point instead.
Power Poker 101.
And you might have gotten Benji to lay down King-Queen then.
I call.
Instead, Scott is doing the opposite. He is going to make the call.
But Fred, what do we know? He's ahead.
Scott is going to the flop with a slight lead, but Benji with 2 live cards.
So Benji is at risk. The flop is 3, 8, 6.
Well, Scott has paired the 8, but that's no consequence to the hand. Benji still has 2 live cards. Going to need to find a king or a queen on the turn of river.
The turn is a 7.
Benji hoping to find some paint on the river or his day at the final table will end.
That river card, please.
And the river. Ooh, it's a paint, but it is the wrong one. It's a jack on the river, and that will do it for Benji.
Fourth place it's all right. Didn't catch no cards, but I felt I did all right. The last hand, I figured he was trying to hit a weak ace. I figured I could make a move on him, push him all in, and make him fold it, but it did not work out that way. I want 20,000. Keeps him. Maybe go to the next events. Maybe hit the tour a little. Yeah, that's not bad at all.
He's my hero. I am so proud of him.
More action from our final table when we come back. Welcome back to the HPT at Route 66 Casino, our first ever trip into New Mexico.
Greg Raymer still the chip leader, but not so dominating anymore. Look at Rob. Rob has made a huge climb, started this final table with a little over 300,000 in chips, and now he's right on Mr. Raymer's heels with 54 big blinds. Scott Doherty is the short stack with plenty of room to play with 34 big blinds. Still at 12 and 24,000 with a 4,000 chip ante.
Greg's going to be first to act. Greg looks down at 3 deuce, and he is going to raise it up to 50,000. We always interview the players and try to get to know them a little bit before we start play at our final tables. And we asked Greg a couple of questions. He said, listen, you guys know everything about me. 3-1 pretty much knows everything about me, and that is true. We all know Fossil Man's story.
And it's a good story, and he's a really good guy. He's been a great ambassador to this game and a great addition to the field here in Albuquerque, New Mexico. The players have just gotten a big thrill out of sharing their company with him.
All right, so Greg raises on the button with deuce 3. Rob calls with ace 6. Scott calls out of the big blind with 5-7. It is officially a family pot. This is one odd family. Here comes the flop. It is 8, king, jack, rainbow.
All 3 players miss this flop. Rob is ahead with ace high.
Rob checks over to Scott.
Scott wondering if he should get frisky here with 7-5. Greg has played countless HPT events over the years. He's making his first HPT final table here in Albuquerque. If he were to take this down, and he's the chip leader 3-handed, if he can take this down, it would be his biggest cash win since taking down the 2004 main event.
He's had other huge cashes, but not one that came in the form of a victory. And so he is really, he says, trying to get some redemption here on the HPT tonight, proving that, yes, indeed, I can still take these things down.
Well, Scott is going to bet 100,000 here.
100. The bet is 100,000. Scott bets 100. A full buy.
And Greg Raymer's going to get out of the way. Let's see if he can get Rob out of the way. He does, and look at this. Scott Doherty, who's been playing close to the vest most of the night, pulls off a bluff with 7 high and gets the champ and the second chip leader to fold.
Blinds are going up, 15 and 30,000 now with a 5K ante, and Scott is going to be first to act. Scott again from Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Ace 9 offsuit on the button.
30 with a 5K.
I'll bet.
Scott announces he's going to open the pot here with a decent-sized ace on the button, 3-handed. He's going to make it 100,000 to go.
The raise by the 2 seed of Scott.
You're an amateur. At one point at the final table, does it no longer affect you that Greg Raymer is sitting to your left? Does it ever go away?
I got to think it doesn't go away, but these guys have to feel pretty comfortable about being 3-handed right now.
Greg Raymer feeling very comfortable looking down at ace-queen.
A monster holding in a short-handed game. And Greg is going to represent a big hand. He's going to re-raise it, makes it $260,000 to go.
On go the glasses, hand over the mouth. Cue the silent treatment.
I'm all in.
And Scott is all in. I give you credit, Scott Doherty. You are putting the screws to the world champ.
And now an all-in re-raise by the 2-seed of Scott.
I grudgingly call.
And Greg is going to make the call. He and Scott have formed a friendship over the last couple of days and at this final table.
So far, but not yet.
He says, I begrudgingly call, and look at that. He is way ahead with ace-queen kicker.
Greg had just too many chips in front of him to lay ace-queen down.
And Scott is hoping to find a 9 on this board to outflop Greg.
Otherwise, we will be heads up with Greg and Rob. And the flop is 5-7-4. Raymer still ahead.
No help for Scott on this flop. He's hoping to find a 9 on the Turner River or running cards for a straight.
Let's go ahead and see the turn card, please.
And the turn is a 6 of hearts.
Well, that's one of the running cards Scott was hoping for. Now he needs to find an 8 for a straight. A 9 would also give him the win. A 3 would chop this pot.
Still in the lead with the ace-queen. Let's go ahead and see that river card, please.
No 8 or 9.
And the river is a deuce, and so like so many players before him, Scott Doherty has been eliminated.
I had to do that, right? It's a tough spot. It's your hand's really good, and it's like all decisions actually look like crap.
Good.
I'd be lying if I told you I wasn't a little bit disappointed, but overall, I think I did what I had to do, and I said that I needed to open up my game, and I did it. I don't think I overplayed my hand, but now that I lost, maybe, but I feel good about it. Wish it would have been on the other side of it, though, but yeah, I'm pleased. I'm pleased.
And Scott, there is nothing to be ashamed of. You made a great play on the world champ. Just didn't work out for you. But now, Fred, we are heads up. It is Greg Raymer, the 2004 World Series of Poker champion, trying to add an HPT championship ring to that hand, and he's heads up with Rob Crawford.
Rob Crawford, one of the short stacks when we started. Now he's heads up and right on Greg Raymer's heels. Rob is going to call from the button, and Greg is going to check his option.
And the flop is King 4 Deuce with a couple of hearts on board.
Greg has flopped a flush draw. Rob just sitting with 7 high right now. But he has position. Greg is checked, and Rob is going to bet.
Music to Greg Raymer's ears.
60,000 to go for Mr. Raymer with a flush draw. He's going nowhere. He's just going to flat call this.
Easy peasy lemon squeezy there. Greg calls that 3 times today and 8 times tomorrow. Here comes the turn. It's a 6. Now let's see if Rob slows it down.
Well, Rob is now taking the lead in this hand. He pairs his 6, but Greg's still holding that flush draw.
Greg checks to Rob. Maybe about 150,000, 140,000 coming from Rob, perhaps.
Robert makes a bet in the amount
125,000.
Wrong again, Mr. Hansen.
Now, turn over the page and start making marks on the other side. It's not going to be the last time.
Well, Greg with a flush draw, 125,000 to call into a 315,000 pot. Not really priced in for a flush draw, but if he thinks his queen and jack are live as well. And he does. He is going to make the call.
Call has been made by Mr. Raymer. All right, Veronica, let's see that river card, please.
And the river is an ace. Might be a great card for Greg to scare bet with. But he checks.
All in.
Rob just shoves the stack in. He could have easily checked behind there and shown the cards. Instead, he puts the pressure on Greg by going all in. And Greg is going to fold, and Robert's going to draw first blood here. Heads up.
Well, that's all the time we have for our final table tonight on the HPT, but Fred, should be a great finish next time here from Route 66 Casino in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Be interesting to see if the Fossil Man can have his biggest victory since his almost decade ago now win at the 2004 World Series of Poker main event. Now, do you think you've got what it takes to sit at our final table and win the unreal cash? Well, then log on to HPT Poker to find out about our upcoming events that anyone can play in. For James Larson and Fred Bevel, I'm Chris Hansen. We'll see you next time right here on the HPT.
And I'm the one with the stack showing 7 to the jack, going cry to your mama cause I'm sending you back. I'll be the last man standing with the money in my hand. I'll be the last man standing with the money in my hand. Last man standing with the money in my hand. I'll be the last man standing with the money in my hand.